I buried my own daughter alive in the crawl space under our kitchen floorboards, not because I hated her, but because she'd stolen my life, my face, my voice, my everything, and laughed while doing it. That was the moment I knew mercy was for suckers, and revenge was the only god worth praying to. 3 years later, in the body of a stranger I'd clawed my way into, I stood in the driveway of our old $1 million McMansion in Palo Alto, key in hand, ready to make the walls scream her secrets back at the world. It started with a kiss. Not the sweet, Hallmark card kind you see in those feel-good movies they peddle on Netflix, but the Judas variety. Wet, lingering, loaded with the kind of betrayal that hollows you out like a pumpkin on Halloween. My name was Riley Harlan back then, 48 years old, CEO of Harlan Biotech, the kind of woman who turned heads at board meetings and made grown men stutter over their PowerPoints. I'd built that company from a garage startup in the Valley, peddling neural implants that promised to enhance focus for overworked tech brothers. Little did I know, my own flesh and blood was about to turn my empire into his playground. Ethan was 25, my golden boy, the one I'd poured every dime and dream into after his father bailed for a yoga instructor in Tahoe. He had my sharp jawline, my ice blue eyes, but none of the grit. Or so I thought. That night, we were celebrating the FDA approval of Neuralink 2.0, our big break, the device that synced brains to machines like a bad acid trip without the crash. Champagne flowed in the open-plan kitchen of our Spanish-style monstrosity on Waverly Street, all white marble counters and sub-zero fridges humming like contented beasts. The house cost $1.2 million, bought with stock options and a mortgage that chained us to the American dream's razor wire. He leaned in close, breath smelling of Dom Perignon and something sharper. Ambition, maybe, or just the rot of entitlement. "Mom," he whispered, lips brushing my ear, "you did it. We're unstoppable." His hand slid down my back, possessive, like he was already claiming the throne. I pulled away laughing, chalking it up to the booze, but his eyes lingered too long. Pupils dilated like he'd popped one of our prototypes early. The next morning, I woke up strapped to a gurney in the sub-basement lab, the one I'd kept hidden behind a false wall in the wine cellar. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting shadows that danced like demons on the concrete. Ethan loomed above me, white coat starched crisp, syringe in hand.
Shamam.
"It's for the best. Neuralink isn't just enhancement, it's evolution. And you're the beta test." He'd spiked my drink. The betrayal hit like a freight train. My son, who'd begged for that corner office 6 months ago, had been siphoning funds, cooking books, laundering biotech grants through offshore shells. The feds were closing in, SEC audits, whistleblowers from the mailroom, and he pinned it all on me. Forged signatures, doctored emails, the works. I'd take the fall. 15 years in federal lockup, my legacy shredded, his path clear to the C-suite. But Ethan wasn't done. He was obsessed with the swap protocol, a black-budget glitch in Neuralink we'd buried after animal trials went south. Rats trading fur for feathers, memories for madness. "You always said family shares everything," he said, jamming the needle into my fore. "Now you'll understand what it's like to start over. From the bottom." The world dissolved into static. Pain first, a migraine that split my skull like an axe, through oak. Then darkness, absolute, the kind that swallows screams. When I surfaced, it was in a body that wasn't mine, frail, wrinkled, reeking of Bengali and regret. Margaret Voss, 62, a retired nurse from Fresno I'd recruited for a focus group 2 weeks prior. She'd signed the NDA, blind to the fine print. Her memories flooded in fragments, bridge games at the senior center, a husband lost to pancreatic cancer, Social Security checks that barely covered cat food. But underneath, mine clawed for air. Boardroom battles, Ethan's first steps, the sting of divorce papers served poolside. I was trapped in her skin, her life, while Ethan, God, no, Ethan wore me like a bespoke suit. He moved through my world with my grace, my voice pitching deals to venture capitalists over avocado toast at Phil's Coffee. Riley Harlan was reborn, untouchable, while the real me rotted in a one-bedroom apartment off Highway 99, dodging bill collectors, and piecing together the swap's permanence. The protocol fried neural pathways. Reversal meant risking vegetative states. Ethan had gambled my soul, and won. Fury doesn't begin gentle. It simmers, then boils over in the quiet hours. I spent weeks in Margaret's sagging armchair, staring at faded Polaroids of her grandkids, plotting. She had no family left to miss her, just a forwarding address to a P.O. box in Modesto. I pawned her heirloom brooch for a burner laptop, hacked into Harlan's employee portal using backdoor code I'd written myself. Emails, financials, the works. Ethan was good, but I was the architect. The secret he'd buried deepest? The crawl space. Our house had won, a forgotten relic from the 80s build, accessed via a hatch under the farmhouse sink. I discovered it during renovations, used it for holiday wrapping paper and old tax returns. But Ethan? He'd turned it into his confessional. Late-night recordings, voice memos time-stamped after benders, admissions of the fraud, the swap, even a drunken rant about, finally, making her pay for choosing the company over me. He'd rigged a hidden mic there, paranoid about bugs, but forgot his own mother's paranoia ran deeper. I drove north in Margaret's rust bucket Corolla, windows down to drown the AC's death rattle. Palo Alto shimmered under a relentless sun, Teslas zipping past like sharks in chummed waters. The neighborhood hadn't changed. Wrought iron gates, drought-proof lawns, solar panels winking like all-seeing eyes. Our house? No. His house now, sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, curtains drawn against prying neighbors. Pulling into the driveway felt like slipping into a nightmare skin. The garage door yawned open, revealing Ethan's Porsche, hood still warm from a spin to the office. I killed the engine, heart hammering against ribs that weren't mine. Margaret's pacemaker ticked like a bomb. The front door was unlocked, arrogance incarnate. Inside, the air was cool, scented with lavender diffusers masking the faint mildew of affluence. Ethan? My voice cracked, Margaret's smokers rasped, shredding the silence. No answer. I crept through the foyer, past the abstract Warhol knockoff he'd bought to impress states. The kitchen gleamed under recessed LEDs, marble island scarred from too many charcuterie boards for investors. I dropped to my knees, nails brittle, unpainted, prying at the cabinet toe kick. The hatch groaned open, revealing the black maw below. Torch app on my phone cast jittery beams into the dust-choked void. Boxes of junk, Christmas ornaments, defunct routers, a shoebox of my old love letters to Ethan's dad. But at the back, wedged against insulation pink as cotton candy, was the mic, a tiny black orb, Harlan prototype, blinking faintly on backup battery. I yanked it free, wires snapping like brittle bones. Plugging it into my laptop later, in a dingy Motel 6 off El Camino Real, was catharsis. Ethan's voice spilled out, tinny and slurred. She thinks she's the queen, but queens fall. The books are clean, her name's on everything. And the swap? Genius. By morning, she'll be scrubbing toilets in Bakersfield, and I'll be sipping scotch in her chair. Laughter followed, the kind that curdles milk. Then the kicker. You died to me years ago, Mom. The day you picked the lab over my recital. That recital. 8th grade, Swan Lake. I'd missed it for a pitch meeting that sealed our first funding round. He'd never forgiven, nursed that grudge like fine wine. The recordings went on, details of payoffs to auditors, bribes to lab techs who'd administered the swap. Enough to torch his empire, but not his freedom. White-collar crooks like him lawyered up, plea bargained down to country club probation. No. I needed personal, visceral. The house would speak, all right, but in flames of truth. Revenge isn't a sprint. It's a marathon through razor wire. Every step drawing blood you pretend isn't there. I spent the next 6 months becoming Margaret Voss, the ghost in the machine. Day job. Phoning it in at a Fresno dialysis clinic, her old gig, while nights blurred into code. Rewriting Harlan's firmware from public GitHub forks, infiltrating smart home protocols. Our McMansion was wired like Fort Knox. Nest cams, Alexa echoes, Lutron shades that whispered open at dawn. Ethan had upgraded post-swap, turning it into a panopticon of his paranoia. But paranoia has blind spots. He never changed the master password. My birthday, April 15th, 77. The date I'd inked our first patent. Through VPN tunnels and coffee-fueled all-nighters, I slipped in like smoke under a door. First, the cams, looping footage of empty rooms, making ghosts of us both. Then the HVAC, rigged to whisper, subsonic frequencies, just loud enough for hidden mics to catch, but tuned to my frequency. The controversial part? I started small psychological jabs to unspool him. Lights flickering at 3 a.m., mimicking Morse code, betrayal, thermostat spiking to sauna levels during his Zoom calls, sweat beading on my forehead as investors droned about Q4 projections. He'd blame gremlins, call in HVAC guys from Yelp, but I'd spoof their diagnostics. Code buried deep, self-erasing. Ethan unraveled in increments. Social media first. Anonymous posts on Glassdoor. Harlan execs cooking books. Ask about the CEO's retirement. Whispers in Valley Reddit threads. Riley Harlan's a fraud. Her kids pulling strings. He lawyered up, issued denials, but the doubts seeded like weeds in a Zen garden. Dates ghosted him. My body, his clumsiness. One left mid-dinner at Evia, napkin tossed. You're not her. Who the hell are you? I watched it all from Fresno. Margaret's arthritic fingers flying over keys, a smile cracking her. My leathered lips. But guilt gnawed, a rat in the walls. This was my son, the boy who'd built Lego empires on the living room rug, who cried when I explained venture capital over PB and JS. Had I forged him in neglect's fire? The swap wasn't just theft. It was karmic payback for every missed bedtime, every not now, Ethan, that echoed in empty hallways. Deeper dig, the hidden secret. In the recordings, a throwaway line about the incident. Cross-referencing SEC filings, I unearthed it, a clinical trial gone wrong, 5 years back. Neuralink 1.0, beta tested on vets with PTSD. One subject, a Marine named Torres, flatlined mid-sync, brain fried like overcooked bacon. Ethan covered it. Autopsy fudged, family paid off with hush money from petty cash. I'd signed off, trusting his reports. But he'd botched the dosage, high on coke from a Menlo Park afterparty. I bore the blame in nightmares, but legally, it was buried under my name. Now, in Margaret's body, I exhumed it. Emails to Torres' widow, a barista in Oakland scraping by on tips. Your husband's death was an accident. Proof attached. She lawyered up pro bono. CNN sniffing the scent. Ethan's stock dipped 8%, bored whispers turning to shouts. He retreated to the house, blinds drawn, drowning in Glenlivet and ghosting calls. The decision that crossed the line? Infiltrating his dealer. A burner number, texts as Riley. Flirty, familiar. Miss our old highs. Swing by. He bit, paranoia be damned. I dosed the coke with a neuroblocker. Harlan surplus swiped from a dumpster dive at the old lab. Nothing lethal, just enough to scramble signals, make his enhanced brain glitch. He woke sweating bullets, convinced the swap was reversing. Therapy sessions booked, pills popped, his empire teetering. But power like his doesn't crumble easy. He was cunning, a fox in my henhouse. Hired PIs, traced anomalies to Fresno IP addresses. One night, my burner buzzed. Unknown number. Margaret? Or should I say Mom? Come home. We need to talk. Heart in throat, I drove south again, Corolla wheezing over the grapevine. The house loomed under sodium lamps, a beast sated on secrets. Ethan answered the door in silk pajamas, my face gaunt, eyes hollowed by doubt. Jesus, you look like shit, he said, stepping aside. No fear, just pity, the knife twist. We sat in the great room, Eames chairs creaking under us. Fire crackled in the linear hearth, casting his shadows long. I knew it was you. The hacks, the leaks, subtle but sloppy. Mom's touch. He poured scotch, neat, slid a glass my way. I declined. Margaret's liver was a ticking clock. Why? The word escaped, raw as road rash. Not accusation, plea. He leaned back, legs crossed like a TED Talk guru. You built a cage, Mom. Harlan was your god. I was the altar boy you forgot to feed. The fraud? Survival. The swap? Mercy. I gave you a new start, away from the spotlight, the stress. You're thriving, aren't you? Scrubbing floors, living simple. Lies, slick as Silicon Valley venture pitch. But his eyes, my eyes, flickered. The recordings had warned him. He was pitching to himself now. The house knows, I said, voice steady. Every whisper, every sin. It's wired to confess. He laughed, that hollow bark. You died to me years ago, Mom. The day you chose circuits over cribs. This place? It's mine now. Burn it down if you want. Insurance'll cover. The hook sank deep. I stood, Margaret's knees popping like gunfire. Then let it speak. Upstairs, in the master bath, marble spa I designed for soaks after 12-hour days, I accessed the Nest Hub, hidden in the vanity. Final upload. The recordings looped through every speaker, every smart bulb pulsing in sync. Ethan's voice, damning, filled the halls. Fraud confessions, swap schematics, Torres' death rattle digitized. He burst in, face ashen. What the? Playtime's over, kiddo. I hit send. Files to the board. The feds, Torres' lawyers. The house awoke, lights strobing red, AC blasting confessions in subsonics that rattled windows. He lunged, my hands, around Margaret's throat. You bitch. I'll end this. We grappled, bodies clashing in a grotesque ballet, mother and stranger, skin versus sun in stolen glory. I need him, old lady weak, but fueled by years of swallowed screams. He staggered, crashing into the mirror, shards raining like judgment. Sirens wailed distant, neighbors' 911s triggered by the light show. Ethan slumped, blood trickling from a gash, superficial, but symbolic. Please, he gasped. Fix it. Swap back. Too late. The truth reversed in that moment. He wasn't the villain I'd painted. The recordings? Doctored. A deeper dive, in the chaos, revealed my own buried sin. I'd known about the trial overdose, signed off to protect the company, protect him. The swap? Mutual, desperate, his idea, but my consent in a blackout drunk. We'd both fallen, co-conspirators in our downfall. But revenge doesn't care for nuance. Climax hits like a valley quake, sudden, seismic, leaving fault lines in everything you thought solid. Ethan on the tile, gasping like a fish on dry dock, the house a cacophony of our shared sins. Speakers blared his voice, no, our voice, detailing the fraud I'd greenlit, the cover-up I'd orchestrated over late-night Merlot. Riley authorized the dosage tweak. It confessed, timestamped to my laptop. Ethan took the fall for optics, but she pulled the strings. The twist gutted me worse than the swap ever had. I'd remembered it wrong. Repressed, rewritten in Fury's ink. That spiked champagne? My idea, a reckless test of the protocol on ourselves, mother-son pact to bond through tech, high on hubris and Harlan's horizon. It backfired. He seized control, but only because I'd blacked out first, leaving him to improvise the cover. Betrayal? Yes. But mine as much as his. Cups kicked in the door as I knelt beside him, Margaret's gnarled hands pressing a towel to his brow. Ma'am? Step away. Tasers drawn, radios crackling with domestic disturbance, possible BNE. Ethan played it masterfully, croaking, she broke in my mother, she's not right. Stole my identity or something. Call security. They cuff me gentle, like handling fine china, but the ride to Santa Clara County lockup was anything but. Interrogation room. One-way glass, styrofoam coffee bitter as regret. Detectives, a grizzled vet named Kowalski and his partner, a sharp-eyed Latina with a Stanford lanyard, grilled me on the hacks, the files. Identity theft? That's federal, lady. And assaulting the CEO of Harlan? You're looking at hard time. I spilled it all, swap, secrets, the house as witness. They laughed at first, sci-fi bullshit, until I recited passcodes, serial numbers from the sub-basement rig. Forensics pulled the mic, the uploads. By dawn, warrants flew. Harlan stock cratered 40% pre-market, headlines screaming, tech titans body swap scandal. Fraud, death cover-up exposed. Ethan lawyered up from his hospital bed, coolly LLP sharks circling. But the recordings didn't lie, our voices intertwined, a duet of damnation. He claimed duress, mom's instability, post-swap psychosis. I countered with logs, timestamps proving his solo fraud runs. The media frenzy was biblical. Fox decrying woke tech gone mad, MSNBC probing corporate cannibalism. Protests outside Harlan HQ. Burn your implants, they chanted, signs waving like pitchforks in pitch darkness. The controversial decisions? Mine, every one. I could have stopped at leaks, let the courts carve him slow. But no, I escalated, dosing his supply, turning the house into a digital lynch mob. Was it justice or just another Harlan experiment, testing how far a mother would go? Ethan's PI testified. She planned it all, from Fresno. Methodical. Vengeful. Trial dragged 6 months, a circus in San Jose federal court. I in Margaret's muumuu, him in bespoke wool, my old power suits tailored tighter. Witnesses piled on, Torres' widow, tear-streaked. They killed my Javier for profit. Lab techs flipping for immunity, spilling swap horrors, other volunteers, vanished into psych wards, memories mush. My testimony was the gut punch. Standing at the oak podium, voice quavering in Margaret's timbre, I laid it bare. I built a monster, and it wore my face. But the real horror? I looked in the mirror every day and saw myself staring back. Greed, neglect, the American hustle that chews kids whole. Jury ate it up, waterworks and all. Ethan's cross. You consented, Riley. We were partners. Partners? I shot back, leaning into the mic. You stole my skin to hide your sins. That's not partnership. That's parasitism. Verdict. Him, 20 years white collar at Lompoc, restitution in the billions.
Me?
Plea deal, manslaughter on Torres, 5 years suspended, community service in elder tech literacy. The judge, a silver fox with a gavel like Thor's hammer, eyed me stern. Redemption's a bitch, Ms. Voss. Don't squander it. But the ending? That's the debate fodder, the twist that leaves you arguing over last call at the pub. Ethan rotted in Gen Pop, appeals denied, but whispers from guards. Harlan Kids got a project, neural hacks from his cell, recruiting inmates for beta tests. Power like his doesn't die, it metastasizes.
Me?
I sold the house, auction for 1.5 mil, proceeds split with Torres' family. Kept the crawl space hatch as a doorstop in my new Fresno bungalow, a reminder that secrets fester if you let em. Margaret's body held, pacemaker swapped for a fresh one on the house. Ironic, Harlan warranty. I volunteer now, teaching seniors to spot phishing scams, my rasp warning. Don't trust the face you see. Happy? Tragic? You tell me. I got my life back, sort of flesh foreign, but soul reclaimed. Ethan's laugh echoes in dreams. You died to me years ago. Maybe I did. Maybe we both did. In that sub-basement glow. The house spoke, all right. Truths ugly as exposed wiring. But in America, land of second acts, who listens when the echoes fade? Some nights, I drive to Palo Alto, park curbside, watch the new owner's minivan gleam in the drive. Lights flicker at 3 a.m., gremlins or ghosts. I smile. Margaret's teeth yellowed, but true. Revenge isn't closure. It's the spark that keeps the dark at bay. And if Ethan ever swaps out of his stripes, well, the walls have ears. Always.